Hello, all. So let's get into the story over here. It says here, men and women who hold sexist views are less responsive as parents. Um, is that really so? You would think they would be more responsive because they want those kind of views to kind of pass on to their children. Uh, and it's not why, how are you determining sexist views? For instance, if a man or a woman believes in women and children first, right? That is sexist. That is a sexist view. And I doubt that anybody, because it benefits women and it benefits children, and men also subscribe to that notion. So I doubt anyone would want to count that as sexist, even though it really is sexist. So how are they determining sexist views? Is it only something that they view as negative in a sexist way that's a sexist view? For instance, entries into certain clubs and venues that say women get in free. That's sexist. That's a sexist view that's very common that a lot of people hold. It, you know, it's just man paying for the first date. Sexist. It's just there's a lot of things that people do that is sexist. There's no individual in this world that is exempt from sex being sexist. So how exactly are they determining this? Because if everyone is sexist, what exactly criteria are you using to narrow down their sexism in a way that you can actually categorize it as this person is being less attentive because they hold this view? Let's get into it. Do your attitudes about women and men influence how you parent your child? Of course you would, because you're trying to raise them up to be adults, and depending on their gender, that's going to play into how you're going to raise them. So it should. It obviously should. The last thing you want them to be is confused because there's a lot of that going around. Perhaps you think women are warmer and more supportive, and so naturally better caregivers. Mm, I can see why that misconception exists, but it's never been that women are caregivers because they're warmer and naturally better caregivers. Is because, well, a lot of human history we've just developed in a partner dynamic where you have the men and the women, and you can't really have the women out working while they're pregnant, uh, hard labor jobs. So the men usually do most of the work. If they're doing most of the work, they don't have less time to be present raising the child. So obviously the role is left to the women, and eventually you see that enough in life, you start to think that, well, the women are taking care of the children because they're just better at it. But it's no. If anything that's competitive in life, men are probably going to be better at doing it because have a natural drive towards being competitive, and a lot of times women can be good at things, but they usually work towards being just as good as the men, whereas men just work towards things to be really good at it. No matter what industry, no matter what you can think of, if there's a best at doing it, it's most likely going to be a man because we just have that competitive drive. So if raising children was competitive, most of the best caregivers would be men. Perhaps you'd see men as stronger, more independent, and better able to protect and provide for their families. Um, Men are stronger. That's just a biological and mental uh, thing. You can say, oh, well, mentally they're kind of the same, but that's not true because emotions are a weakness. It obviously is. You can be mentally strong and emotional. Like, I know that's triggering for a lot of people, but that is just the truth of things. Guess what? Guess who's also emotional? Children. Children are very emotional, almost as much, or maybe just as much, as adult women. Children are emotionally chaotic because their hormones all over the place, and women are emotionally chaotic for the same reason. It is a weakness. It is a mental weakness. There's a reason we protect children from certain things that they're not emotionally ready to handle, because it is a severe weakness to be that emotional. Because it can exacerbate a situation. Say you're going through something mentally, being more emotionally sensitive would make that situation worse than it would be, and it would make it harder for you to move forward past that situation because you feel those emotions a lot more intensely. So it's harder for you to push it down and move past that. So yes, men are stronger by any metric you're trying to measure. More independent. Men are more independent because uh, we are less able to depend on other people. People are less likely to support a man, an able-bodied man, than they are to support an able-bodied woman. People more want to help women than they do want to help men. And also, women, they use the community. They're more interested in utilizing the people around them in order to get things done rather than actually doing it themselves. It's not a matter of uh, it's not a matter of who is better or who is more valuable. It's just that men men are valued and respected when they're being independent, whereas opposed to women that are independent, uh, they're not as valued. They're simply not, because first of all, you're doing something for yourself, and you're not relying on anyone else, and you're not really helping anyone else. Whereas a man, if he's independent and he's doing something for himself, a woman can still come in and just benefit from all of that. If an independent man, an independent woman, no one is coming into her life and benefiting from all her independence because she wants to protect all the things that she worked towards. Where men are more, a man is more, men have that sort of protector and provider instinct that make them more useful regardless of how selfish a man might be. It's way easier to utilize his resources than it would be for you to utilize a selfish woman. So um so we are more independent and we're more valued for that, so we push towards that, and better able to protect and provide for their families. Yes, but thinking women and men are different can do a lot of harm. Why? It's true. It is true. Why would it be harmful to acknowledge a reality of life? Nowhere is this more obvious than in how people view the roles of parents. It is in this traditionalist worldview, men should be physically strong, seek resources and status, and provide for their family. Yes, because we're not going to be giving birth. So who is going to do that side? Because that side needs to be done. That role needs to be there. Someone has to be strong, and someone has to have the resources and provide and the status and all that stuff. Someone has to do that. Are you going to put the pressure on the women to do it? Whereas for the men, if you put it on the men, it's much easier to do that, because even if most men can accomplish that, some men can, and most of the women are just going to gravitate towards those men. And if most of the women are gravitating towards those men, that behooves the other men that are falling behind to get up to that level so that they can attract those women as well. It drives society forward. Just virtue of having the men in those roles. It benefits everyone. So why would you say that's harmful? On the flip side, women should serve their partners and nurture their children. Yes, it's give and take. The women can't just be there receiving all the time. They have to actually do something. And nurturing is free. It's something you can do regardless of your state. If you're pregnant or ill or whatever, you can kind of do that, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's not something that is taken away from you. And people who break with these gender norms can face criticism for those who hold the views, also known as hostile sexism. No. Um, People who break with those norms can face criticism, certainly, but it's really not that big of a deal. If your way is working, you break from those gender norms and your way is working, people will stop criticizing you. People have nothing to say when what you're doing is working. But if you break from gender norms and all you have is a bunch of problems and failed relationships, it behooves you to listen to those people. You know, criticism is not all bad. I know it's negative. I know it can bring down your mood or whatever it is, but it can also be a good reference point as to what needs to be done. If someone is criticizing you for, I don't know, whatever, how you're dressed or whatever, and you feel like this is your style and that whatever that means to you, it behooves you to listen to those people, because even if you want to dress on your style and all it does is attracts aggression from other people and all of that stuff, that just makes your life harder. So it behooves you to listen to those people that are criticizing you and change your style a little bit to achieve the same goal that you wanted before, but make it your own thing. And then you receive positive responses from those people, and your life is better from the virtue of listening to criticism. So it's not a bad thing. So it's saying it's hostile sexism is just it's simply people wanting to do what they want to do without any pushback, which is not the way to grow in life. You need that pushback because it informs you of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And without that feedback, you could be walking through life failing the whole time, and no one lets you know until you hit rock bottom and you realize for yourself, like, this whole time you thought you were winning, but you were actually losing. That's the worst possible thing that can happen to you. So you want to be in an environment where people would actually care enough to give you those criticisms. The term refers to overtly negative or misogynistic attitudes towards women. Hostile sexism, but yet it's only negative or misogynistic towards women. That says that the only time people see this as a problem is when it's directed towards women, which means it's usually the women complaining about sexism, and they're not complaining about the sexism when other women do it to men, which is in itself, it's sexist. Most women fail to appreciate fully all that men do for them. Okay. People inclined to hostile sexism strangely agree with statements such as, most women fail to appreciate fully all that men do for them. That's a true statement. That's not really sexist. It's not sexist at all. You feel that most women actually do fully appreciate what men do for them. That's fine. It's still not sexist. That per- that person is just wrong. It's perfectly fine to be wrong. It's not hateful. Women seek to gain power by getting control over men. No, that's false. That's a false statement. Women don't seek to gain power by controlling men. Some might, but not most. Not even a good enough number that you can say women do that. Women usually seek happiness and joy and positivity more than power. Um, Way more than anything else. Women would do a lot of negative things in life, but not because they want to do negative things. It's just simply they're they're not aware, or they don't care that there's negative consequences to whatever they're doing. They're just reframing it in a way in their own heads that what they're doing is trying to make themselves happy, and uh, and the byproduct of other people being harmed in that way is not their intention. So if it's not their intentions, it's a less impactful on their own sort of conscience and their own feeling of guilt. So I would say that one is wrong. Women seeking power to control men. I don't think that's correct. But it's still not sexist. That's just simply someone having a negative view of someone's actions, and they're just saying women seek control, power. That they're just wrong. I don't think that's really sexist in a negative way. It's sexist in the fact that you're dressing one gender, but it's not really. That's like saying men are aggressive. Like it, like it's not true because most men aren't really aggressive. Men are more aggressive than women, but most men are way more calm uh, than a lot of women. A lot of women are very like a lot more aggressive, expressively aggressive than men, even though men are known to be more aggressive. But rarely do men show that aggression unless challenged or something like that. Women would show that aggression openly because it's safe for them to do so. Um, but I would still say in that situation it's wrong. I guess technically you could say it's sexist, but I still wouldn't count it as sexist. Once a woman gets a man to commit to her, she usually tries to put him on a tight leash. Well, I would say that one is true, but only because uh, it's a reasonable thing for them to do. It's a reasonable thing for a woman to do. I don't think it's negative. The tight leash is the commitment. Like if you have someone committing to you, that is the leash. You're putting them on a leash. It's just the nature of the thing. I don't think it's wrong for women to have their committed partner on a leash. Uh, that's the commitment. That's what it means to commit. You're on a leash. So I don't think that one is a negative thing. Women are too easily offended. If someone is offended by something, they're just offended. You it doesn't matter how easy or hard it is to offend someone. If they're offended, it is what it is. I'm sorry. I also do think it's kind of true that women are easily offended, but it's not really something that they're doing wrong. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of who they are. When they're offended. I mean, men could be easily offended for the same reason, but just because they didn't express it doesn't mean they're not offended. I think a lot of the confusion is that women are uh, uh, more willing to express what they're feeling. They're more willing to express it. Doesn't So if they're offended, you will know right away most of the time because they would express it right away. Whereas you would say a man is harder to offend, but he could have been offended way faster than her, or or just what I mean at the exact same moment that a woman was, but he just didn't express it. So I don't know. That one's a hard one, but I would say that's not something that women are really doing wrong. Uh, but how do you parent with these hostile attitudes, Affair? Oh man, I don't know. How does hostile sexism affect parenting? There's evidence that sexist attitudes contribute to inequalities by generating discrimination, harassment, and violence towards women. Why, when people talk about sexism, it's always just a one-way thing? It always seems to be that it's coming from a place where it's meant it's meant to curb male behavior to make women more comfortable. It's never like, okay, today we're going to address a lot of the things that women do that make other people uncomfortable and that they should curb, because people know criticizing women never go over well, because then they'll just act the victim and say that you're bashing them. So they openly say stuff like that. It's always, you say sexism, but it's not really sexism. It's really just about the things that women don't like. Because if you're going to address sexism, there's a lot more things that women do that are sexist towards men, and no one really addresses it. And if they do address it, they get called sexist or violence or harassment or discrimination towards women. They get called all these terms in order to shut them up. So the only people that can complain about sexism happen to be women. Research also shows that men who hold more hostile sexist views commit increased levels of violence towards intimate partners. Um, or it's possible that those men hold those hostile views against the women in their life. It, because you're saying they're showing increased levels of violence towards their partners, not random women on the street. So are they sexist or are they just mad at their partners? You know what I'm saying? Like someone being more likely to uh, punch somebody that they don't like doesn't mean that they now hate people that look like or sound like that person that they don't like. That it doesn't mean that they're going to be violent towards people that look like and sound like the people they don't like. It's just that's just a false equivalency. It's not that they have sexist views, it's that they don't like their partner because that's the person that they're being violent towards. But while their growing understanding of hostile sexism might harm women, the way it might affect behavior towards children has largely ignored. You see, that's another thing that if we're going to address sexism, women have more privileges in society than even children. So, for instance, you can you can discipline a child physically. See where I'm going with this? But you can't really do that to a woman because that would be abuse, right? You can tell a child that they're wrong for saying certain things or doing certain things, and you wouldn't be called certain words. Like no one would say you hate children because you say they're annoying. A lot of children are annoying. So no one would say you hate children, but if you say a lot of women are annoying, you see where I'm going with this. Anyways, yeah, this article, I don't know. Both parents hostile sexism is harmful. Father, they still haven't made a case for hostile sexism, so I'm gonna stop it there because they seem to equate hostile sexism as just things that women don't like, which is sexist in itself. So I'm not going to be lectured by a sexist about sexism. Anyways, until next time.